So this is part of the What Remains documentary, is Leah Gazan's speech that she gave on January 20th, 2025, where she said that there's nothing more violent than for an Aboriginal survivor to say something, to tell you their story, and for you to say they're lying. But for her, that is nothing more violent than that.
Since the discovery of the 215 children in unmarked graves in Kamloops, there has been a growing and disturbing rise in anti-Indigenous racism and residential school denialism.
The attempts and language used to control this narrative are becoming more and more desperate as the days pass. A power structure is clawing forward based on subjective experience, absent of objective truth. A philosophy known as relativism in what is now a post-truth era. This is how totalitarian states emerge.
I decided that that was the time to introduce Bill C-413, which would prohibit the incitement of hate against Indigenous people through residential school denialism, because it's violent. Denying somebody's genocide, denying somebody's story is violent.
That is just a ridiculous thing to say, because we have very, very violent things that have happened, such as the Holocaust with, people being actually murdered. We have Rwanda with whole families being hacked apart but with machetes. We have the death squads in Latin America, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we have no shortage of, actually violent things. But you have these absurd claims that are being made, for example, by Billy Coombs, who was one of the eyewitnesses about the burials at Kamloops, who said that Queen Elizabeth had taken 10 children on a picnic from the Kamloops Indian Residential School in 1964, and they had been abducted by the Queen and Prince Philip, which of course would be impossible.
I've met people here in Calgary, white people, who believe that. And it just boggles the mind. If you've paid any attention to royal visits to Canada over the years, the King and Queen never go anywhere without an entourage. There's always a crowd of people around watching everything they're doing. To suggest that the Queen could have walked off with 10 kids and somehow murdered them and no one knows? This is ridiculous.
And who are the, we don't know the names of the children. This is what has to happen, is when people are making these claims, you have to start getting the ground facts about these matters. So, who are the children who disappeared? There must be some. You can't just have 10 children disappear and no one said anything. Are they saying the parents of those 10 children would not have said, hey, my child went out for a picnic with Queen Elizabeth and never came back? It just doesn't. And the Queen wasn't even in Kamloops in 1964. Anyway, we have footage of her being in Quebec and other places. But if I said to Billy Coombs, you're lying, Billy, Leah Gazan is going to say that's the most violent thing that she can possibly imagine. All these sorts of things. So this is Leah Gazan, who, shouldn't even be a politician. I don't even know. It just is so amazing has the role that she has. But okay, Leah Gazan is an absurd person, so we can expect things like that from her. But why is the government taking this seriously? So it's the people who take Leah Gazan seriously who are the problem, really, not Leah Gazan. So that's the first thing. And then, what's going to happen? Because it's interesting, your comment about it is crumbling. Just being in Kamloops for 4 days, I didn't really see a lot of evidence of the narrative crumbling.
I think probably not there, but certainly.
I see some... there's our documentary that we did